Hello everyone, just Goran here and welcome back to another Planet Zoo real life inspiration video. Today, the Barnyard Animal Pack release, and I was going to make a video about the goats, but in last week's Barnyard area video I missed quite a few nice examples, so the goat video kind of just became Barnyard area part 2. I did not know how to split it up otherwise. All the areas are so intertwined, so you're just getting an extra long video in return now. Anyway, without any further ado, let's look at some more real life examples of one of the most exciting elements of the new pack, petting areas. And we're starting off over here with an interesting one. This is the old goat petting area of the Beekse Bergen, which is no longer there for a variety of reasons. A goat petting zone next to a food court might not be very sanitary, but most importantly, the zoo thought that the petting area didn't really fit the zoo. It might be confusing to kids. Why can I pet the goats but not the lemurs? I guess Frontier needs to be told that as well, since they do let guests pet lemurs now. But anyway, this argument Beekse Bergen made does seem to align a little bit with the argument that some other people have against this DLC. Do petting zoos actually belong in zoos? Don't get me wrong, I love to pet me some animals, as will become very obvious in this video. But I do understand that it can give, especially children, a bit of a mixed message in a zoo where we actually want to teach people to respect animals and nature. So I think that's a pretty interesting debate. Regardless, I do think farm animals definitely belong in the game and are a really fun addition, and you can always choose to make a regular enclosure for these animals over an animal encounter one, which we'll see plenty of examples of in this video as well. But yeah, that's enough about goat politics. Let's actually get into the inspiration part of the video. Hope I didn't bore you with that. The main feature you'll see with these encounter habitats is there's usually a separate area, like the one over here, where the animals can retreat to if they don't want to be pet by people at that moment. And then there's a larger space that can be completely explored by humans. There's also a nice little rock and log over there for the goats to climb on. Very nice. Over here in Van Blankendaell Park, we immediately get an example of an enclosure that isn't interactable, walkthrough, whatever you want to call it nowadays. We got just a standard enclosure with a shelter, which is being eaten. Are they giving you enough food? Sir, that's your house. Yeah, so just a very simple enclosure over here. One thing that stands out is that the trees are all protected with mesh to prevent the goats from eating them, I suppose. And on the other side, there's this cute little sheep enclosure. I love the elevation changes around here. It makes it a lot more interesting. And these enclosures or these shelters are super, super cute. Little farm style stuff. And other than that, nothing much to say here. So let's move on to the next zoo. That is going to be Monde Sauvage, where as you're driving into the zoo towards the parking lot, you're already passing a bunch of barnyard type enclosures, including this petting area for the pygmy goats, which I should probably mention. None of the goats in this video are the alpine goat. They're not really being kept a lot in captivity where I live, at least. I saw worldwide they're not that common in general. So yeah, we're all pretty much going to see just African pygmy goats and maybe some variations of other species. But over here in AlwetterZoo Münster, I really love this enclosure. I think I might use this for Eco Park Lindo as an inspiration, because I was looking for an enclosure that isn't just flat, that has a bit more oomph to it. And just look at this beauty of an enclosure. There's so many little pathways, logs going over the path, rocks strewn about, really interesting terrain for the goats to traverse, but also just a beautiful looking enclosure. Nice backstage over here as well. But what I especially love about this enclosure is that it's in a bit of a foresty type area, right? There's so much greenery around, and it just feels completely different to pretty much everything else that I've seen. There's even a little stream going through the enclosure. Yeah, it's so nice. And yeah, there's tons of space for the goats to retreat and get away from the people, which have to stay on these little paths everywhere. So yeah, super awesome stuff. I absolutely love it. And there's even a little sheep in there, which ran away from me, so I know I wasn't able to pet that one, but that's okay. Over here we can see the gates, by the way. A lot of these types of enclosures have some sort of gate with a self-closing mechanism, whether that's gravity or a spring or something like that. Of course, you don't want the goats to be able to escape if someone forgets to close the door. So yeah, that's something you'll see a lot of as well. Anyway, we are already in NaturZoo Rheine over here, which has this lovely little barnyard area. I'm only calling it that because the pack calls it that. We can see we have a hygiene station, is what they're calling it in game, but just a little hand washing area over there, because of course after petting the goats you do want to wash your hands. But yeah, the game kind of forces us to create those anyway, so I'm sure you will all do that. But yeah, we've got a lovely little area over here with the barn, also a nice climbing structure for the goats going over the path, making it a lot more interesting. And yeah, inside of the barn there's a little bit of a guinea pig area as well, and also space for the other animals. There's horses, but the main attraction here is definitely the goats. There's even these little pictures on the wall which say like goats ... and then every picture is like give milk, our friends and stuff like that. So it's really cute. I do like that. And then on the other side of the barn we have the outdoor enclosure for the guinea pigs, also one for rabbits over here. And that's pretty much it for the farm area. There's more stuff on the other side, but it's less farmy. So let's just move on because we have so much to get through. Over here in Zooparc Overloon, this is not really a farm area. It's just a little goat enclosure that was next to what is now the South America area. I'm not sure what this area used to be, where they were probably more suitable. But yeah, we can see once again these gates that are closing thanks to gravity because they're at an angle. And yeah, you can pet the goats here, which I really love. But this is the old area because it kind of became the South America area. And now the goats have moved to this area, which is the Africa area. And these are African pygmy goats, so it makes sense for them to be here. And there was a lot of space. I'm not sure if this is a permanent thing as well, because this entire area is still up for something. I don't know what they're gonna build here, so maybe this is a temporary thing, I don't know, but it's still really cool. And then next up we have Pairi Daiza, which, if you didn't know, is built around an old monastery, and that actually used to be part of the entrance. Now they've built a new entrance, and the old entrance / monastery was still kind of here. Around the monastery is this little petting zoo area, and this is actually already outdated footage. You can see in the footage in a moment there will be some construction work going on, because recently this petting zoo area has been expanded. A lot more animals have been added, also animals that debatably shouldn't really belong in a petting zoo. I think there's like wallaby and maybe also the rheas. I'm not sure what else there was, but basically the building that you can see around this area, the actual monastery itself, has been converted into some hotel rooms with views of the petting zoo. So that's what's different nowadays. But I feel like this main area is probably still quite similar. I wouldn't really know. But there's some cool detail over here, like old tractors. And there's the building in the middle, which is the stalls with that cool little tower on top. And then it's a very simple enclosure otherwise, just a grassy field with a path going through the middle. The goats can be either on the path if they want to be pet, or they can go onto the side of it if they don't. There's other animals here as well. We can see a little sheep over there. There's some pig in here which cannot get out. They're not part of the petting program, I suppose you could say. And a little shelter over here for the goats. Yeah, just some neat little things in here, but nothing too spectacular. Just some nice detailing and a simple enclosure. There's also some baby goats over there, really cute. But yeah, nothing much else to see here. So let's make our way to the exit and actually move on to the next couple of zoos, which I've actually all grouped together because they have a similar theme going on. We're starting off at Wildlands, at the entrance of the Africa area, or yeah, it's technically an Africa area, not entirely. Wildlands is weird sometimes. But we got this little enclosure over here for donkeys, and I think something else maybe as well, I'm not sure. But that's next to the entrance, so it's kind of the first animal you see really. And as you get through the entrance building, you enter this little village area where there is a whole bunch of farm animals. So it's kind of the petting zoo, kind of a village area, and I really like that idea of integrating a farm area into this really themed, like make it a farm from another place in the world. That is super cool and a really creative way of doing a farm area, in my opinion. So over here we can see there's also a walkthrough bit where you can actually pet the goats that are in there. On the other side though, there's some more like enclosures, like this one. You can even look into the backstage of the donkeys over there, and to the right of that is a little rabbit enclosure which has so much detail in here. I absolutely love all of that little bits of theming. But probably my favorite part of this, and this is something I mentioned in the last video about this pack as well, is how you can use domestic animals inside of a zoo to teach some things for educational purposes, teach about domestication. And it's exactly what's being done over here inside of this little school in the village is education about domestication and about how domestic species come to be. So that's super, super cool. I absolutely love that so much. And I thought that was very inspiring, so I wanted to include it in this video over here. But now let's get to the goats, because technically this is the goat video. I'm not even sure what I'm going to call this video. There's a little chicken coop in here as well, so still no goats, but yeah. You can see we're in the goat enclosure. They can get around here. There's a bit of shelter where they can get away from people as well, and all over the place there are places for the goats to get away from people. You can also take a peek inside of this barn over here where they could get to. But yeah, there's all sorts of nooks and crannies where they can get away from. So really quite nice over there. And yeah, what else is there to say? Look at all the theming. Look at these tire things. I wouldn't want to step on those even if I was a goat. I don't know. You can also see some like reliefs of animals in the wall, like ostrich over there. Yeah, just so much awesome stuff here. Really, really cool. Absolutely love it. And this also reminded me of some other zoos that actually do something very similar. So let's have a look at a bunch of other zoos that have like these themed farm areas. So we're starting off at Dierenpark Amersfoort, where we are in the city of old. I only had some like very old footage of this, which is winter and crowded, but you can see the donkeys over here in the middle of the village, kind of standing about. There's tons of theming, making this really feel like a village area. That also counts for all the other habitats. We also have Persian black-headed sheep over here, which are a great addition, and this especially kind of made me feel a little bit sad about the pigs that we got in the pack, right? We've got very standard animals that are very like European farm-like almost. I know we got like the American donkey and whatever, but still, you don't really get stuff like this. Like over here in Planckendael as well, we got the Watusi cattle and once again the Persian black-headed sheep, and it just allows you to create these areas that are like exotic farms, if you know what I'm saying. I think that's a lot more interesting, and also for a zoo and for Planet Zoo, it allows you to do more interesting stuff than just regular sheep. But over here in Zoo Erlebniswelt as well, we once again have, also for the entrance area actually, wow, Wildlands, Planckendael and Erlebniswelt all have a little African farm type enclosure at the start of their Africa area. That's kind of funny. But yeah, you can see a really big farm enclosure over here. Really nice, actually not the standard African hut type huts around here, not the round huts, but these more wooden ones with lots of detailing on them. Really, really cool to see all of that. And yeah, once again, Persian black-headed sheep and Watusi cattle over here, just like at Blankendael. I didn't know this was such a common theme, actually. It's really cool to see. Yeah, so too bad that that's not really a thing that we're going to be able to do in Planet Zoo with the animals that we got, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of mods to do stuff like that in the future as well. So anyway, over here at Wuppertal, we also have a small farm area with a donkey enclosure that we just saw, and over here a large petting zoo area. Something I haven't actually talked about yet is how common this type of fencing is. I'm not exactly sure what the name of it is, but it's like a roll-up kind of fence with these thin sticks and then a metal wire going connecting them together. We cannot really make anything like that in Planet Zoo, which is a huge bummer. I really hoped that this pack would have a fence piece like this, and that would have allowed us to do stuff like that, because that would have been a really, really fun addition, because you see it all over the place. Like, all of these videos have it, and we've got the things from the Oceania pack that kind of allow us to make them, but they're still too thick. They're not as thin. We don't have any sticks that are that thin. Anyway, over here in Zoo Dortmund, there is this walk-through goat enclosure, but it was closed. That is actually something that I see a lot as well. I'm not sure if that's like a permanent thing or a COVID thing, that it still kind of has a little tail into the nowadays, that they still don't allow people into these enclosures. I'm not really sure, but maybe it means that these enclosures will be permanently closed off like that. I don't know. But yeah, we just have a very small barnyard area over here, starting with that goat enclosure, but also moving on to some other stuff on this side, where we have some cows, some pigs, some goats as well, obviously. In here, in this indoor part, there's even some peafowl, which was fun to see. There's actually a couple of places we'll see with peafowl in their barnyard areas. Look at that pig, that's such a beautiful big boy. And not a huge enclosure for those, but I guess they could also open that up, or open the other part up to them as well. And then a nice rustic looking barn over here. Really like the style of that. I don't know what style it is, and I'm not gonna make the same mistake as my last video calling it Bavarian. So as we go inside over here, there we've got all the stalls and lots of stuff to see there as well. Really quite cool. And once again, just lots of these stalls have the little name tags on all of the stalls, which is really fun to see. Once again, with many of the barns that we've seen, actually, it continues, like it opens up on one side and the other, so you can walk completely through it, and it's just part of the walking path. So that's something that I'm also planning on doing in my zoo. And yeah, on the outside, you've got a small like guinea pig enclosure or something, and then this is what the barn looks on the outside. Super awesome structure over there. And then on the other side, there's even more. There's this enclosure, which I think was also for some type of goat, so I thought I'd include it because it does look really quite cool over there with all those rocks and logs. And yeah, that's just a really striking view right there. So would be really cool to build something like this as well. But yeah, that's it for Zoo Dortmund. Let's move on to the next one, that is going to be Zoo Osnabrück, where there is this little small area over here. There's some like turkey and stuff. Not the most interesting, but I thought I'd show it because it was something chicken related, I guess you could say. But there is this larger enclosure over here with some feeding station. There's also a hand washing thing over there, really similar to the one in the game actually, so that's quite cool to see. But yeah, this is kind of connected to the Asia area, which is this big like ruin area, and we can see that same theming throughout here. It's kind of interesting that that's the goat petting area, but even more interesting is that there's like a playground in the walkthrough goat area, which I wonder how safe that is. Like there's even swings over here. I wonder if a goat has ever been hit by a kid being a brat, but that's not something that we want to think about here. Look at that cute boy. Yeah, that's all the footage I have actually for this. There's not much else to see there. Let's move on to Zoo Veldhoven, which has a very simple enclosure and probably one of the worst gates. Like that gate does not look very self-closing to me. I don't know, I don't remember what it was, but there is 2 gates, which is also a thing you should probably keep in mind. If you want to make something realistic, you could of course just use the things that the game provides, but if you're making a realistic walk-in enclosure, generally there's 2 gates so that the goats don't immediately escape if they manage to get through one, so they'll be stuck in between the 2 gates, and hopefully the people are smart enough to realize that they should lead it back into the enclosure at that point. But yeah, that's Zoo Veldhoven right there. Next up we have Zoo Erlebniswelt once again, but this time the goat enclosure. And yeah, this is why I just wanted to make this part 2 of farm animals, because it doesn't make sense that it's completely spread across all these different videos. This should have just been in the other footage of Zoo Erlebniswelt as well, because it's the exact same area. We literally saw the barn from that video in here as well. But yeah, it's a very simple enclosure. What's actually interesting here is so far in a lot of these goat enclosures, the brick tiling floor is on the visitor side, whereas over here it's more on the goat side over there. So I thought that was pretty interesting over there. Next up we have the Zonnegloed, which doesn't have any walk-in interactable animal encounter enclosures. They do have this lovely grassy field over here for, I think those are like Shetland ponies. I wouldn't know. I'm not a domestic expert nor a pony expert. But yeah, we just have a bunch of smaller enclosures over here for all sorts of animals. Of course, the Zonnegloed is a rescue, so they need a lot of enclosures for a lot of different animals. Probably. As we look ahead, we can already see something that probably is an alpaca, so we'll see this again in the alpaca video, I guess. But yeah, just a bunch of really nice enclosures in this little farm area over here, and I think this is probably for the goats, because there's some like things for them to climb on over there. There's also a climbing structure on the right over here, but for some reason I did not really record anything else than just me looking straight ahead and walking through this area. So sorry about that, I guess. Speaking of saying sorry though, we are in BestZoo. What a bad joke, oh my god. We've got actually several farm animal enclosures over here, starting with this, which is not exactly a walk-through enclosure. You're not able to go into the enclosure, but the animals are able to approach you and you can pet them. There's even a little hand washing thing over there, so it's definitely condoned that you pet the animals, otherwise they wouldn't put something like that there. There's also this larger enclosure over here on the right of us right now, which is a walk-in. You can actually go inside that one and pet all sorts of animals. There's even some storks and demoiselle cranes in there, as well as goats, donkeys. I think there's zebu, but I don't think the zebu are able to get into the open area. You can also see, as I have been seen in many of the enclosures so far, a little feeding station where you can, put in a coin, get some feed, and feed some of these animals. But yeah, as you can see, there's the donkey, there's a goat in the background, stork in the background. There's this kind of large circular area which is surrounded by fences that the animals are able to go into if they want to get a little scratch, like this donkey luckily did. And you can walk around here, see some of the backstages up close. That goat was very into me, and like he was super interested in getting some scratches, or maybe he thought I had food or something, I don't know. There's even more enclosures like this one for some type of sheep, I'm not exactly sure of the name, and over behind this tortoise enclosure is a donkey enclosure. I didn't really record the enclosure that much because I was too distracted by the baby donkeys because they're so freaking cute. But yeah, here you can see some of that enclosure, and once again more of those little small thin branch fences, and I'm so upset that we don't have them in game. But yeah, over here, Zoo Kleve, right at the entrance, is another goat enclosure. You can once again see those kind of straight up tires over there. It would be nice that we are actually able to make something like that. This grassy field over here is actually the kind of separation area where the goats can escape to if they don't want to be pet. And then there's this tiled area which is for the people, where the people can pet the goats. And you can see over there's this tiny gate that is just small enough for the goats to be able to squeeze through to get away from the people if they want to. But yeah, pretty simple enclosure otherwise, just some rocks thrown about. Something that you will see a lot near these petting areas is playgrounds, because yeah, that's both kind of children focused. I thought I'd just throw in at least one example of that. But Zoo Kleve also has many other kind of farm animals. Over here is some type of donkey, I think, enclosure. There's chickens kind of just free roaming the zoo, and behind here we can also see more kind of farmyard enclosure. I think this is the Jacob sheep, if I'm not mistaken. I very well might be. Very angry sheep over there. I don't think this is Jacob sheep actually. I didn't record much of the enclosure. You can see some of it in the background here with that big hill, which is quite cool looking. And then there's a huge dust cloud over here in this really large farmyard enclosure. There's some cow, there's some donkey, there's all sorts of stuff on here. But the enclosure itself doesn't have that much going on, to be honest. So yeah, just enjoy some of those animals over there. There was this really interesting tiny backstage over here. This is for some sort of pig, I do believe. The enclosure for them is off to the side here. You can see more of those smaller backstage buildings. And there you can see the pig lying down. Yeah, very simple enclosures, all of these, but nice to include, I suppose. There's just one more that I got a little bit of footage of. I did not record all of these very well, but yeah, over here you can see another type of donkey, I suppose, sitting in a separation area, and also in their backstage over here, which is interesting to see. Well, of course, all those backstages. Next up over here, Ouwehands Dierenpark. This is one I definitely forgot in the last video. We've got kinderboerderij, de Grebbehoeve, or petting zoo, de Grebbehoeve. It's actually kind of interesting. In Dutch, a petting zoo is called a children's farm, kinderboerderij. In German it is actually the same as in English. It's a streichelzoo, or yeah, petting zoo. It's literally the same translation. But yeah, as for the enclosure over here, there's a nice little pond in the middle that you have a bridge going over. You can see a tractor over there in the field, and the field itself is actually super lush. It's really quite awesome. We've got goats, we've got donkeys. Yeah, just a really nice enclosure here. Very simple. Shelters over here with those lamps in there. I thought that was interesting. And a cool fence going along the entire way. And then a backstage building in the back. Who would have thought? You can definitely tell I'm running out of things to say with these enclosures. I don't know. It's just another simple, cool petting zoo. We've got a well over there. We've got some backstage stuff. A little hand washing station. And that's it. That's it for Ouwehands. Let's move on to the next zoo. This is going to be DoeZoo Leens. I really do love this area. I don't know why, it just has a certain vibe to it that I really enjoy. The building in the back over there is part of the zoo. It has like a bunch of terrariums and stuff inside. We've got some donkey in front over here. In the back there you can also see a bit of a greenhouse. That's actually the indoor enclosure of some tortoises. And on the other side there is this guinea pig enclosure, which is completely netted over, probably protect them from some kind of predator. And yeah, the enclosure itself isn't too much, especially the backstage for them, the indoor. Could you even call this an indoor enclosure? It must be very crammed in there. I do like the hay bales kind of on top of all of these backstages. It gives it a really nice vibe. That's something we can make with the new hay bales in the pack as well. Then this is probably the backstage for the donkey. On the other side there is more backstage as well for the pig. Some education over here on eggs. Yeah, there you can see backstage for the pig. Slightly on the cramped side over there, but that's what you see a lot with these farm animals, of course. That's a house. I don't know who lives there. And over here, I mentioned before, there's other zoos that have peafowl in their farm areas as well. Yeah, we can see one over here. We got the peafowl with the chicken, and not just chicken. I think there's also turkey and even guinea fowl in there as well. So there we can see the pig enclosure. We can see this kind of milk tank type thing. Really cool sorts of bits of theming over here. This is quite a small zoo, so I do love how themed and interesting all of this is. As we cross this little bridge over here, we get to this area where there's a whole bunch of goats and sheep. There is a little mini golf area over there in the back as well, which is a little bit of got some animal theming. Is that a dodo? Yeah, very random, but actually you see this in quite a few zoos. At least I've seen it in a lot of smaller zoos, that they have these kind of mini golf areas. Yeah, some sheep and a really big field for all of these farm animals to make their home. On the other side of the donkey enclosure, I had the chance to pet him and look at him. He's so cool. And yeah, you can see this is the tortoise enclosure actually. But that's it for DoeZoo Leens. Let's move to Tiergehehe Kaisergarten, where, hey look, more peafowl. So yeah, as you enter this zoo, there is some goat enclosure over there. There's some other farm enclosures as well. Very nice farm building over there with some aviaries attached to it even. But yeah, just all sorts of farm animals. I have officially run out of stuff to talk about, I think. I'm surprised I made it this far, really. We're almost at the end here, so I guess it would make sense that there isn't that much more to add here. Just look at other sheep and another interesting type of fence. I will say, like, all of these fences have a similar vibe, but there is actually a lot of subtle differences to them, so you really do have some options to make your enclosures a little bit unique, at least. Yeah, we can see once again all the trees have some kind of protection around them to prevent them from being eaten, because apparently goats will just straight up eat wood. And here we are, finally at the final zoo of this video. A lot of people pointed out that I missed the farming area of Zoo-Duisburg, so let's have a walk around that as well. Over here we've got some donkeys, and their enclosure isn't just this, there is actually more to it as we will come around the bend over here. Yeah, here you can see it. We've got another nice little barn building, actually multiple of those, because there's quite a few barnyard animals around here. Over here we've got a rabbit enclosure, still manifesting those. Yeah, and the barn, this one is actually not a walkthrough like we've seen before, where you've got both an entrance and an exit. Here you just make a little circle around. Yeah, once again we can see the name tags, and we can see all sorts of stalls for the animals in here. And as we come back outside, you can see there's a little tunnel going into the rabbit enclosure. That's actually really cute. And on this side, we have some cow, I guess, zebu. Zebu would have also been a really cool species. But yeah, we got the Highland cattle. I cannot complain. But either zebu or Watusi would have also been really awesome. But yeah, on the other side, just some more enclosures. I think this one here is for chicken. And the other one we saw was for pigs. As we get around the other side, yeah, we can actually see a pig standing in there. And also we've got some African huts, because we do have the African pygmy goat over here. So we do end off the goat video with some goats. Yeah, the enclosure itself was closed when I was here. Not sure why, once again. But yeah, it's interesting that they did choose some like slight bit of African theming around the African goats. that's fun. Even in the middle of this barnyard area, which is more just general barnyard themed. Yeah, as we wrap up over here, we get one more view of that zebu enclosure, and that's going to be it for this video. So I hope I didn't miss any. I probably did. I probably still missed some zoo, and someone's going to point it out to me. But I hope you got some goat / even more barnyard inspiration. Enjoy the pack. It is out now, so you should be able to buy it and play with all of these awesome animals. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Highland cattle coming out tomorrow, and alpaca next week. Bye bye.